different kind of look at life. There are many different roads and many different curves. Some are cliffs and some are straight roads. And it's a question of how you deal with them.
Reduced to a quiet corner of the Windsor estate, far from the grandeur she once moved through effortlessly, Sarah Ferguson now stands at the edge of a verdict that could redefine her entire future. What began as whispers of financial strain and dwindling royal patience has escalated into a shocking reality. Fergie living in a converted cattle shed, a stark symbol of how far she has fallen from royal favor. But the palace's final judgment is now looming. So, what decision awaits her? And why has it come to this moment of reckoning? Sarah Ferguson's stunning eviction. Sarah Ferguson, once hailed as a shining new star within the royal family, now finds herself at the center of one of the most extraordinary and public downfalls in recent royal history. The woman who once strode confidently through the sweeping corridors of Royal Lodge, a 30-room stately mansion nestled in the heart of Windsor Great Park, has been unceremoniously removed from her home. For decades, this grand estate, with its meticulously manicured gardens, historic architecture, and sprawling interiors, offered her not just comfort, but a form of royal protection and a sanctuary from the world's harshest scrutiny. Now that sanctuary is gone. Her new home, by stark contrast, is modest to the extreme. A single-bedroom converted cattle shed on the estate of her daughter, Princess Beatrice, in the rolling hills of the Cotswolds. What was once a place for livestock has been adapted into living quarters, functional but far removed from the grandeur and security she once enjoyed. Where she once had room after room to roam, lavish drawing rooms and private studies, she now has a compact one-bedroom annex that offers the bare essentials of shelter, a place for survival, not for comfort or luxury. The reduction is not simply a matter of square footage, it is a visible, undeniable symbol of her fall from royal favor. The contrast between Royal Lodge and the Cotswolds Annex could not be more dramatic. Royal Lodge, with its expansive grounds, historic charm, and commanding presence, represented status, influence, and continuity within the royal circle. The Annex, though newly renovated and functional, offers a life stripped to the essentials, a stark reminder that Ferguson's privilege has been curtailed entirely. From the opulence of sweeping gardens and stately halls to a compact space tucked behind her daughter's main house, the change is both physical and symbolic. It is a relocation that broadcasts to the world that she is no longer under the protective umbrella of royalty. Royal commentators have been clear in their assessment. This is not a minor adjustment or a temporary inconvenience. It is, in their words, a final verdict. The relocation acts as a public statement that Sarah Ferguson's era under royal protection has conclusively ended. Where once she lived enveloped in security, surrounded by courtiers, staff, and the privileges her title afforded, she now faces a life of solitude, uncertainty, and exposure to the harsh realities outside the palace walls. For Ferguson, the psychological impact is as significant as the physical one. The loss of Royal Lodge represents not just the removal from a home, but a stripping away of status, of influence, and of identity. The grandeur she once moved through daily is replaced with a modest dwelling that, while serviceable, offers constant reminders of what has been taken. Every corner, every room, every small detail of the annex stands in quiet contrast to her former life, emphasizing that her role within the royal family, her access, her protection, her prestige, has been irrevocably altered. This dramatic relocation is more than a change of address. It is a statement of power, a decisive message from the monarchy. It announces that Sarah Ferguson, once celebrated and embraced, must now navigate a life outside the royal circle, confronting isolation and uncertainty unlike anything she has ever experienced before. Falling from the grandeur of Royal Lodge to a humble cattle shed, signals the end of her royal privileges. But what about her ex-husband, Andrew? Did he face the same fate, or did the king offer him a softer landing? And what does this dramatic eviction mean for Sarah Ferguson's future? Let's find out. Royal calculations and dangerous consequences. King Charles's decision to reclaim Royal Lodge was swift, firm, and utterly uncompromising. There was no room for negotiation, no subtlety, no delay. The king, determined to cleanse the monarchy of any lingering taint, connected to Prince Andrew, formally demanded that Sarah Ferguson surrender the lease on her long-time residence. The message was unmistakable. The era of indulgence and protected privilege for those linked to past scandals was over. In one decisive stroke, the palace signaled that exceptions would not be tolerated, and no member of the royal family, no matter how close or once celebrated, was above scrutiny. The contrast between how Andrew and Sarah were treated could not be more glaring. While Andrew, despite public disgrace, was afforded a soft landing, Sarah was left to navigate an uncertain world on her own. Andrew received a private home on the Sandringham estate, nestled within familiar surroundings and buffered by the royal institution, along with a generous six-figure allowance to ensure he could maintain a lifestyle somewhat reminiscent of his former status. He was, in effect, given a golden cage, controlled, contained, and cushioned from the full impact of his fall. Sarah Ferguson, by contrast, received no such concessions. No estate, no allowance, no institutional shield. She must now face the stark reality of life without the protection of her former status, forced to fend for herself in every sense. This is not merely a practical challenge. It is a profound symbolic statement. The palace's calculation is both strategic and deliberate. Andrew is contained, kept under control, while Sarah's exile is a warning shot to others who might challenge or undermine the monarchy. Her removal is a message, clear and public, that the royal family will act decisively to protect its image and discipline those who veer too far from accepted norms. Yet this hardline approach carries an unexpected and potentially dangerous consequence. In stripping Sarah Ferguson of her titles, her home, her allowance, and her protective shield, the palace has also stripped her of restraint. A woman who once moved under the quiet cover of royal privilege now stands alone, unprotected, and with nothing left to lose. This is a radical shift. She is no longer confined by the unspoken rules of royal discretion. She has been thrust into a position where desperation, anger, and the need to survive converge, creating a volatile and unpredictable combination. The ramifications of this decision extend far beyond her personal predicament. Stripped of security and autonomy, Sarah Ferguson now possesses both the freedom and the motive to act in ways that could have serious implications for the monarchy. Every secret she holds, every insight from decades within the royal circle, now carries the potential for public revelation. Her exile, intended as a measured act of discipline, may inadvertently unleash a far more consequential force, a former royal insider, embittered and unrestrained, whose next moves could resonate across the nation and even the world. In essence, the palace's calculated strike against Sarah Ferguson has created a paradox. An attempt to contain scandal has simultaneously produced a wild card. One woman, removed from the safety of Royal Lodge, now wields the power of knowledge, the intensity of exclusion, and the urgency of survival, a combination that even the monarchy may find difficult to manage. Sarah Ferguson faces far harsher treatment than her ex-husband, reduced to a small bedroom that hardly reflects her royal past. But what is the condition of her new home? Has it been renovated for easier living, or will she face repairs upon arrival? Now, let's explore Sarah's new life in a converted cattle shed. From royal luxury to countryside solitude. With Royal Lodge no longer an option, Sarah Ferguson has been forced to seek shelter in one of the most unexpected and modest places imaginable. Her daughter, Princess Beatrice's former cattle shed, now thoughtfully converted into a small, one-bedroom annex on the rolling Cotswolds estate. What was once a practical outbuilding for livestock has been transformed into functional living quarters, a space stripped of luxury but equipped to provide the bare essentials of shelter and privacy. The transition from the grandeur of Royal Lodge to this compact annex is not merely a change of address, it is a dramatic, almost poetic reflection of the reversal of fortunes she now faces. The renovations to the structure have been thorough and meticulous. Neighbors have noted that the interior has been completely gutted and refitted, with brand new windows and doors installed to bring light, security, and modern comfort to the space. Every detail has been attended to. The stonework of the building has been carefully repointed, the gutters meticulously repaired, and the woodwork repainted in crisp, fresh tones. These efforts have transformed the humble building into a space ready for immediate occupancy, providing Sarah with a functioning private home in the countryside. Even the small touches signal preparation for the colder months. A recent delivery of propane gas bottles, coinciding with the first winter cold snap, ensures the annex is fully heated, demonstrating that the space is genuinely ready for habitation. The annex has its own separate entrance, a feature that guarantees privacy and independence, allowing Sarah to move in and out without disturbance from the main house. While modest in size, this self-contained dwelling represents a degree of autonomy she has not had for decades. Yet the stark contrast with her previous home is impossible to ignore. From Royal Lodge, with its 30 grand rooms, sweeping gardens, and stately interiors, to a single-bedroom converted shed tucked behind her daughter's main residence. The shift is as much psychological as it is physical. Every corner of the annex serves as a quiet, visual reminder that her life has been fundamentally altered. Where she once enjoyed comfort, space, and the unquestioned privileges of royalty, she now faces a compact, practical reality that prioritizes function over form. For Sarah Ferguson, this move is more than an accommodation decision. It is a symbolic demotion. The annex is simple, but it has been prepared with care, reflecting both the necessity of her new circumstances and the dignity that can be preserved in modesty. It is a vivid emblem of her dramatic fall, a tangible representation of a life that has shifted from public privilege to private struggle. The one-bedroom annex, while modest, stands ready to receive her, a small, independent sanctuary that, paradoxically, highlights both her resilience and the extent of her exile. In essence, the annex embodies the stark reality of Sarah Ferguson's current existence. She is no longer shielded by the protections of royal status, no longer insulated from scrutiny, and no longer surrounded by opulence. What remains is a functional, practical home, ready for her to inhabit, yet serving as a constant reminder of the monumental changes she now faces. Sarah Ferguson's proposed new home is ready for her move, but how will she handle her finances after leaving Royal Lodge? Now, let's explore Sarah Ferguson's mounting financial struggles and rising anxiety. A duchess without a safety net. Sarah Ferguson's financial instability has been a quiet but persistent concern for many years, often whispered about behind palace walls and in private circles. For decades, Royal Lodge acted as a protective shield, insulating her from the harsh glare of public scrutiny and providing a buffer against the full weight of her personal and financial vulnerabilities. Within those stately walls, she could maintain an appearance of stability and grace, even as underlying pressures quietly mounted. Her spending habits, frequently described as impulsive and extravagant, coupled with a string of poor investment decisions, left her in a precarious position. A delicate balancing act, She managed largely out of public view. But now, all of that protection has vanished. The eviction from Royal Lodge stripped her not only of her home, but also of the security that had hidden her financial challenges from public eyes. The once reliable safety net of royal privilege, which had cushioned her from both scrutiny and the practical consequences of financial missteps, is gone. The repercussions have been immediate and stark. Book deals that once promised lucrative income have been cancelled, tarnished by the scandals surrounding her family connections and public controversies. Her commercial brand, once vibrant and marketable, has suffered serious reputational damage, reducing opportunities for endorsements, partnerships, or media projects. Even the sale of a property in the prestigious Mayfair district resulted not in a windfall, but in a staggering £400,000 loss, a clear and undeniable signal of the depth of her financial strain. Insiders reveal that the impact is not just monetary. The psychological toll is equally severe. Sarah Ferguson is reportedly tense, anxious, and increasingly fearful about what the future holds. Stripped of both income and the protection of her former status, she faces the daunting reality of navigating life without the privileges that once softened every difficulty. Each day brings mounting pressure, both emotional and financial, as she grapples with the collapse of the structures that had long kept her afloat. Compounding her distress is the contrast with her ex-husband, Prince Andrew, who has continued to enjoy a cushioned existence despite his own public disgrace. While he resides on the Sandringham estate with a generous allowance and private security, Sarah faces exposure, vulnerability, and a life reduced to practicality and survival. Sources note that her resentment toward Andrew's ongoing privilege has only intensified her anxiety, adding a layer of frustration and emotional turmoil to her already precarious circumstances. The implications extend beyond her personal situation. Insiders worry that her growing desperation, combined with her intimate knowledge of royal affairs, could create ripple effects across the monarchy itself. Her financial collapse and public vulnerability have transformed what was once a quiet, private concern into a potentially explosive matter, one that could reverberate far beyond her immediate circumstances. Sarah Ferguson, long shielded and protected, now stands exposed. A woman whose resources have dwindled, whose options are narrowing, and whose sense of security has been almost entirely stripped away. In short, the eviction from Royal Lodge has not just removed her home, it has removed her safety net, leaving her to confront a new reality of financial instability, public scrutiny, and emotional strain. The contrast between past comfort and present uncertainty could not be more pronounced, highlighting the precarious position she now occupies, both personally and in the broader narrative of the royal family. Sarah Ferguson's financial stability is far from guaranteed, given her history of impulsive spending. But what about the charities where she serves as patron or ambassador? Could they offer support during this difficult time? Or has misfortune struck there as well? Let's uncover the details. Stripped of influence. Adding to the mounting pressures on Sarah Ferguson is a wave of public rejection from the charitable and philanthropic world, a blow that cuts far deeper than financial loss, striking at both her prestige and her influence. Over the past months, 7 prominent organizations have severed ties with her, removing her as patron or ambassador. These roles were more than ceremonial. They symbolized a connection to causes, people, and the wider public, offering Ferguson not only visibility but a form of respect and validation that her royal title once amplified. Now, those lifelines have been withdrawn, leaving her increasingly isolated in both personal and professional spheres. Julia's House, a respected children's hospice, was the first to act, citing it as inappropriate for her to continue in the role. This initial move set a precedent that other organizations would quickly follow. The Teenage Cancer Trust, Natasha Allergy Research Foundation, Children's Literacy Charity, National Foundation for Retired Service Animals, Prevent Breast Cancer, and the British Heart Foundation all announced her removal as patron or ambassador, leaving Ferguson stripped of even the symbolic authority these positions once offered. The public nature of these decisions compounded the blow, signaling to the world that her reputation, once intertwined with philanthropy, charity, and positive influence, was now officially tarnished. The consequences of this rejection are profound. No longer backed by charitable institutions or bolstered by public roles, Ferguson has lost both financial opportunities and the sense of purpose those positions provided. Patronages, while often unpaid, carry prestige, networks, and the ability to influence initiatives and garner goodwill. They are markers of status and trust, especially for someone once enmeshed in the royal family. Losing them is not simply a loss of titles. It is a tangible manifestation of her diminished standing, a public confirmation that she has been excluded from the spheres that once lent her authority and respect. This series of dismissals reinforces a harsh, unyielding reality. Sarah Ferguson now lacks any financial or institutional safety net. Evicted from Royal Lodge, stripped of book deals and commercial income, and now rejected by charities she once championed, she faces an unprecedented level of personal and professional isolation. Her life, once cushioned by wealth, title, and connections, has been reduced to a precarious balancing act of survival and reinvention. Every door that once opened to her now seems closed, leaving Ferguson to confront a world where she must navigate her next steps alone, without the protection, support, or status she has long relied upon. The symbolism of these rejections cannot be overstated. Each organization severing ties is not merely a professional setback, it is a public declaration that her position within society and the charitable sphere has changed irrevocably. It is a dramatic confirmation of her fall from royal grace, a stark illustration of how quickly privilege and protection can vanish. In stripping away both material and symbolic support, the world has sent Ferguson a clear message. Her era of influence, prestige, and relative security is over. Now facing the combined pressures of financial strain, personal upheaval, and public censure, Sarah Ferguson must navigate a life in which every decision carries heightened significance and every misstep could further solidify her isolation. Losing her patronages from multiple charities leaves Sarah Ferguson exposed to serious financial strain. But does she have other avenues to secure income? What options might she explore, and how could they be used? Now let's delve into Sarah Ferguson's hidden royal secrets and the threat they pose. The Duchess who knows too much. Beyond the tangible struggles of eviction and financial strain lies a far more potent and dangerous element in Sarah Ferguson's current predicament: the extraordinary knowledge she possesses about the inner workings of the royal family. For decades, Ferguson was not merely a spectator in royal life, she was deeply entwined in its intricate web of relationships, confidences, and private dramas. Through her marriage to Prince Andrew and her long-standing friendships within the palace, she has gained intimate insight into some of the monarchy's most closely guarded secrets. She knows the private details of Andrew's personal and professional life, the confessions and vulnerabilities of Princess Diana, the complexities and history of King Charles's relationship with Queen Camilla, and even the private dynamics among other senior royals, including Princess Anne and Prince Edward. The decades of intimate knowledge Sarah Ferguson has gathered give her a perspective few could ever hope to possess. Now, stripped of royal protection, facing financial pressure, and free from the constraints of palace protocol, she holds an unprecedented power, the ability to reveal it all. Unlike other members of the royal family, bound by rules, legal oversight, and the carefully orchestrated silence of the institution, Ferguson is entirely unguarded. She is unbound, unpredictable, and increasingly recognized as a wild card. No longer under the monarchy's control, she understands the weight of her freedom and the potential consequences of wielding it. Reports suggest that media outlets, particularly in the United States, are already circling with lucrative offers, some reaching six-figure sums, hoping to secure her first in-depth televised interview since her eviction. For the palace, the threat is real and immediate. A single appearance could unleash revelations that would eclipse even the shockwaves sent through the monarchy by Harry and Meghan's disclosures. What makes Ferguson's potential revelations so uniquely alarming is not simply the content, but the breadth of her knowledge, spanning decades, covering multiple generations, and including some of the monarchy's most sensitive and personal moments. Her motivations are both practical and deeply personal. Financial survival is an urgent necessity. With book deals cancelled, commercial ventures limited, and the loss of her royal residence, Ferguson faces a future that demands income. Yet her drive is not solely monetary. She seeks vindication and an opportunity to publicly distance herself from the scandals surrounding Andrew and the Epstein affair, in which she asserts she was an unwitting participant. The combination of her personal grievances, financial needs, and the desire to reclaim agency over her narrative makes her a formidable figure. With nothing left to lose, no home, no titles, no institutional protections, Ferguson's freedom to act is unbounded. Every interview, every disclosure, every story she chooses to tell carries the potential to redefine the public's understanding of the monarchy. Her situation represents a rare convergence of desperation, access, and insider knowledge, creating a scenario that the palace views with understandable alarm. Ferguson could potentially use the hidden secrets she knows about the royal family to generate income if she chooses. But what would her revelations mean for the monarchy? And now that she's been evicted, can she be contained? Now, let's unravel the high stakes of Sarah Ferguson's exile. The monarchy on edge. King Charles III's bold plan to modernize and slim down the monarchy aimed to create a leaner, morally polished image of the royal family. But in an effort to purge lingering scandals, the eviction of Sarah Ferguson has backfired. Instead of strengthening the institution, it has triggered a new crisis, exposing vulnerabilities and tensions that now threaten the very stability and carefully curated reputation the king sought to protect. While Prince Andrew was quietly settled into a comfortable retreat at Sandringham, Sarah Ferguson was cast into uncertainty, stripped of protection and support. In doing so, the palace lost control over a woman fueled not just by desperation, but by decades of intimate, explosive knowledge about the royal family's deepest secrets. What was meant as a decisive, morally firm move has backfired, creating a tense, unpredictable, and potentially dangerous situation for the monarchy. The monarchy now faces a stark and urgent dilemma. Ferguson possesses the ability to tell a story that spans generations of royal history, revealing secrets that touch the most private and sensitive aspects of life within the palace walls. Allowing her to speak freely risks exposing these decades-old confidences to the world, potentially shattering the carefully maintained image of the family. On the other hand, negotiating her silence comes at a significant financial cost, one that may be measured not just in pounds, but in the public perception of fairness and loyalty. Every option carries high stakes, forcing the monarchy into an unenviable position where neither path guarantees security or peace of mind. Meanwhile, the burden of projecting stability and continuity falls on the next generation, Prince William and Catherine. Tasked with embodying the future of the monarchy, untainted, composed, and steadfast, they must navigate an increasingly precarious landscape. Yet even their carefully cultivated image is overshadowed by the looming threat Ferguson represents. Her potential revelations have the power to cast long shadows over the very public efforts to present a rejuvenated, disciplined, and morally clean institution. The family's future, carefully constructed around the promise of continuity and stability, now exists under a cloud of uncertainty and tension. Ferguson's exile has not resolved the palace's problem. It has made it far more dangerous. Stripped of her royal lodge home, her titles, and all formal protections, she has transformed from a controlled insider into a wild, unpredictable force. Once carefully guided, shielded, and monitored within the royal system, she now moves freely, unbound by rules or oversight. Her actions are driven by a potent mix of desperation, anger, and the urgent need to secure both financial survival and personal vindication. What was meant as containment may now become a serious threat to the monarchy. The world waits with bated breath. Will Ferguson, pushed to the edge, choose to reveal the secrets she has long carried, the truths that could rock the foundations of the House of Windsor and reshape public perception of the monarchy? Every decision she makes now carries profound consequences, not just for herself, but for the royal family, their reputation, and the delicate balance of tradition and modernity they seek to maintain. In attempting to eliminate a problem, King Charles may have inadvertently unleashed one of the most volatile challenges the monarchy has faced in decades. Ferguson is no longer silent. She is a potential force capable of changing everything. So, what do you think of Sarah Ferguson's final verdict? Could she, in turn, reveal royal secrets? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.